Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this first MoC Media Parley, hopefully the first of many. It's, a year ago, if you had told me that we would be able to do an online media parley, I would have said it wasn't possible. But as you can imagine, these are the times we live in when it comes to COVID. We've been speaking to most of you since start of the year about ideas as to how we can project athletics better in 2021 ahead of the Olympics. And this is one of the ideas that came out strongly. So we're very pleased to be able to set this up and get something organized going in terms of athletics coverage in Nigeria. A few housekeeping matters before we get started. I think I explained by email already what the purpose of this parley is. We're going to be combining it with weekly email bulletins that we can use to push out some relevant athletics news for athletes, Nigerian athletes home and abroad, and also share content that can be used widely and freely across your platforms. So I've muted everyone for now. We're going to have a Q&A session, a couple of Q&A sessions during the parley. At that point, you can use the button to raise your hands or drop us a note, and we'll take your questions at that time. Couple of other things, like I mentioned, we'll be providing lots of content, photos, videos that can be used. Please do avoid using the screenshots of the parley for content. There will be a lot of great visuals that can be used. We will see about providing the video of the parley afterwards. One of our ground rules, or at least suggestions, will be when you're speaking to have your video on. So this time may be a grace time because not everybody may be ready to put their video on while they're speaking. But if we're going to be able to put out the videos of these parleys, it would be great that we can see everyone who's speaking when they're asking a question. So on that note, thank you everyone for joining us. We're very excited with the announcement for today. Many of you have already been part of our Making of Champions Grand Prix, the first one in 2018 and the second in 2019. Obviously, we weren't able to do the third edition last year, and we've been looking for an opportunity and we've been looking for ways to be able to put it on. And we simply just decided that, you know what, with the Olympics coming up and with the difficulty in getting competitions for our athletes as they prepare for the Olympics, is just something that we had to do in spite of the COVID pandemic. So I'm going to play a short video, 2 to 3 minute video, to show you the history of the competition. And then after that, our partnerships manager, Evans Emmanuel, will take you through the details of the competition. So give me a second and we'll play that video.
Them run like pro. Hey. We are champion. No.
Every year,
The island of Jamaica holds a 5-day athletics competition for secondary school boys and girls called CHAPS. Annually, their 35,000-seater national stadium seats are sold out. Young talents are discovered and Olympic medalists are born. A competition of this magnitude is a very possible feat. In 2018, over 400 athletes gathered from all over Nigeria to participate in the first ever MoC Grand Prix. With fewer platforms in Nigeria for athletes to compete and earn money, the MoC Grand Prix was a dream come true. Everyone had a question. Was the MoC Grand Prix here to stay? This question was answered with the second MoC Grand Prix. 500 participants given the opportunity to set their personal bests for the 2019 African Games in Morocco. The Grand Prix is recognized by the AFN and is an important feature in the athletics calendar in Nigeria. The third MoC Grand Prix promises to be the biggest yet. 1,000 athletes are expected to storm Lagos, with some of them seeking qualification for the Olympics, the African Championships in Algeria, and the World Under-20 Championships in Kenya. With Tokyo 2020 fast approaching, sponsor the third MoC Grand Prix and be a part of Nigeria's preparation for the World Athletics events. Most athletes globally will have to qualify through the new world ranking system, which ranks athletes on their 5 best performances in an event in the past 12 months. Competition indeed is the lifeline of any athlete with a dream to qualify for global championships. The MoC Athletic Challenge will feature up to 40 individual and relay events and will include competitions such as the third MoC Grand Prix and a new Nigeria versus the World Relay. This can only be made possible with widespread support from both corporate organizations and private individuals. It's the dawn of a new era in track and field in Nigeria. Support the Athletics Challenge today. Let's make Nigeria the capital for athletics in Africa.
All right, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video and it was informative. I'm going to hand over to our Corporate Partnerships Manager, Evans Emmanuel. He's going to provide more details on the MoC Grand Prix and what is coming up with it. Thank you, Evans.
All right, thank you very much, Bambo. Thank you, everybody that's here at the meeting. We're very excited about the third MoC Grand Prix for a lot of reasons. Number one, if you like you've seen in the video, we started this initiative all the way back in 2018. The idea then was very simple. Can we give athletes the opportunity at competitions organized in Nigeria that are of international standard? And we've come a long way, and we're very excited about the progress we've made. The third MoC Grand Prix is very instrumental and very significant towards our goal for athletics in Nigeria. I mean, if you think about Nigeria's history in athletics, you go all the way back to Atlanta 96. Nigeria won about 6 medals in the Olympics. 4 of them were from athletics. And we are very optimistic at MoC that, see, this year, the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, Nigeria could potentially win 5 medals and better its record at the 1996 Olympics, which brings me to the program for the third MoC Grand Prix. We've selected the 2nd and 3rd of April 2021 as the dates for the Grand Prix. Yaba Tech Sports Center in Yaba, Lagos is going to be the venue. As with the 1st and 2nd MoC Grand Prix, AFN is going to partner with us in helping us to ratify and verify results, as well as ensuring that these results are recognized by the world governing bodies for athletics. And very interestingly, for the first time, we're going to be introducing a mixed by 4 Olympic relay qualifying event. Now, I want you to think about this mixed by 4 as a team of 2 men and 2 females running in the relays. This is going to be the first event of its type at the Olympics Games, and it's very interesting, and we're very hopeful that Nigeria can qualify for this event from the 3rd MoC Grand Prix, as well as potentially win a medal. This event is going to be open to athletes from across Nigeria, as well as Africa. We already understand that some athletes have already hit their Olympic qualifying times, but there are a lot of the host of other athletes that are still struggling to meet their qualifying standards for the Olympic Games. And the reason is very simple. You look at last year, the events of last year and the COVID-19 that ravaged the world, there's not a lot of competitions for these athletes to run. So it kind of drums on the importance for competitions here in Nigeria that our athletes can run so that they can meet the world rankings. And in terms of the world ranking, the way I want you to see it is that it's a new system that is used by the athletics body. It means that athletes would actually have run their 5 best performances over the last 12 months before they can be to meet the mark, the qualifying mark for the Olympic Games. And then for this reason is the reason why we're having this media party. We're very excited about the possibilities for the 3rd MoC Grand Prix. Our efforts, is to try to see if we can, put together 4 events of this type, making it like 5 events in a series called the Athletics Challenge. The idea of the Athletics Challenge is to ensure that, we provide as much competition for athletes to be able to meet these qualifying windows for the Olympic Games and then other competitions that come during the athletics season. So we're calling on everybody to put all hands on deck. We already know that everybody is all hands on deck from the AFN. Already they released a calendar, listed about 3 events there. The Sport Ministry, is doing the Adopt an Athlete initiative as well as other competitions they're organizing. But I think the current call is for everybody to really understand the importance of this moment and this period that we're in, and to pretty much inspire you experts, you media experts, to be able to, carry this energy and enthusiasm about what could be for Nigeria a very successful outing at the Tokyo Olympic Games to the general public, inspiring corporate partnerships, inspiring private investors, private partners, private sponsors, as well as the general public to see the need to jump behind our athletes and the amazing work we do for the sports in Nigeria. We understand that these are very unprecedented times globally. The coronavirus has ravaged the world, but we're very optimistic about hosting a very COVID-compliant competition in the 3rd MoC Grand Prix. We're in communication with the Ministry of Sports as well as the Lagos State Commission of Health to ensure that we adhere to the COVID-19 sport code and protocols that have been put in place for events of this type and magnitude. And in terms of the kind of protocols we put in place and we're looking to implement, we understand that there's standard operational procedures for organizing events like this. There are plans to ensure that these facilities, the Yaba Tech Sports Center and all the facilities we'll be using on the days are decontaminated. There's the presence of running water, ensure that, there are soaps, there are disinfectants at all entry points, ensure that there are officials that are on ground to ensure that the athletes are participating as well as every stakeholder, ensure social distancing, as well as provision of face masks for participants as well. As of today, registration is open for this 3rd MoC Grand Prix. And this is very interesting for us because for the first time, athletes will be invited on an invite-only basis. And the reason for this is we want to put a cap and really manage attendance at this event and ensure that the event runs as smoothly as possible. So we're very excited about this. It's our hope that we are able to inspire the same level of enthusiasm through this media party, through the experts that are here in your various fields, and be able to, drum up the necessary support to ensure that Nigeria has a smooth running to the Tokyo Olympics. So yes, I'll leave the audience open now for any questions in response to the few information I've put out. So please Anyone in the audience that has any questions or would like to get any clarity or respond to some of the information I put there, kindly raise your hands in the audience and we'll give you a time to speak, probably at 1 or 2 minutes at the most. Bambo will be very happy to take your question. Thank you very much. So anybody can, the way you raise your hands, you look at your tabs. I think there's an option there for hand raising. Anybody with any questions and any reactions? Okay, I can see somebody. Okay.
Okay, that's Tunde Eleduni, I believe. Tunde, before you speak, we're going to continue this Q&A for 10, 15 minutes or for however long we have questions. And then we're going to have a short segment looking at the start of the athletic season in Nigeria, which is coming up this weekend in Akure, before we take any other final questions and close the meeting. So we're about 15 minutes in already. We don't expect the meeting to go beyond an hour. We should be done in the next 30 minutes, possibly. Okay, over to you, Tunde.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so my question is around, okay, let me first commend the brains behind it for taking a bold step. I think the challenge has always been to start. Once something is started, I'm sure more people will come on board and the athletes will be better for it. My question is around the venue, Yabatech. Over the years, the Yabatech track has not seen much of, well, I say maintenance or upgrade. And for me, in a year that athletes are trying to get the best of times, running on a track that, I might be wrong, but that's just my feeling, that the Yabatech track is not the best that we can use. Like the Teslim Balogun Stadium where the MoC usually train. I don't know which is a better track. For me, I'm just looking at the venue. That is Yabatech the best choice to host this. And looking at the Teslim also being a larger stadium, social distancing and all the likes. I don't know if it's a better choice compared to Yabatech. So that's just my concern. But for the reason behind this, I think it's laudable, and I'm sure it's going to be a success. And the athlete, like I said, will be better for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tunde. So to answer your question, it's a good question. Interestingly, for elite athletics, historically, in the last few years, Yabatech has actually been the only choice in Lagos for these athletes to hit qualifying times. Teslim Balogun Stadium, you mentioned already, we trained there. It's a very good location. As you mentioned, it's bigger, but we tend to get problems with negative wind, and the athletes, it's kind of understood that we may not get good times running at Teslim to qualify. Now, we are keeping Teslim Balogun Stadium in mind for some other events, such as the relays. If we have a big relay event, we're looking at that to bring another event there in Lagos. And the other reason why we're looking at bringing in more events is to also say, let's take this thing around Nigeria. We don't have to limit it to Lagos. Tunde, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. All right, I'm going to go to Gowon and then to Charles. Gowon, if you can ask your question. Thank you. You have to unmute yourself. Go on, you're still on mute at the moment. I will go to Charles, and when you're ready, we'll come back to you. Charles, go ahead.
All right. Hi, Bambo. Good afternoon to everyone who's here.
Hi,
It's
Charles.
good to be here. Okay. While you were speaking, what really piqued my interest was where you said athletes will be invited on a strictly invitational basis. So how do you select those athletes and in some way pacify those who have not been selected? In other words, how do you come up with the criteria for selection?
Thanks, Charles. In the past, our MoC Grand Prix has kind of been an all-comers event. We've always had the spirit of anyone who wants to register and come can come. We had about 400 athletes the first year, about 500 the second year. Because of COVID, we are taking a more cautious approach this time around. We want to be very sure about who is coming and who is competing. And ideally, we're going to be publishing the start list ahead of time. In fact, this is the first time we are actually announcing our events with more than 2 months in advance. And it's a sign that a lot of planning is needed to have a smooth event. In terms of selecting the athletes, the most important thing is for athletes who are trying to qualify for the Olympics, African Championships, World Under-20 Championships this year, for them to have an opportunity to qualify. So certainly we will be prioritizing inviting established athletes, athletes who have a time that can be backed up. That's going to be our priority. If and when we have more sponsors joining the event, we can then expand it and start looking at involving more athletes and making it a bit more open as it's been in the past. I hope that answers the question, Charles.
Okay, yeah, it does. It does.
Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, let me go back to go on. Yes, I can hear you now. Go on.
Yeah, first I have to commend the Making of Champion for this initiatives, and when you were speaking, I'll even give you some insight to some questions raised by Charles and Sudo. You do say that invitation will be basically based on those who are invited, and that participation will be on those invited. My worry now is some of these athletes, from the way I spoke with some of the directors of sports, some of them are already in camp in Nigeria preparing for the National Sport Festival. Even though the festival, there are certain things still behind it, whether it will hold or not. Now, and talking about the Olympics, I know very well that the 4x400, the release, basically, these are major areas of concern for Nigeria. Those, if you say this thing would be based on those invited only, do you put that into consideration? Those to say looking for a way to qualify for the release, do you put that in your consideration?
Yes, thank you. Go on. Certainly, our minds are deeply on the relays for Nigeria. Nigeria has won 25 medals at the Olympics in history. 13 were in athletics, and 8 of those were in the relays. So the relays is actually the area where Nigeria should always be looking at getting 1 or 2 medals at the Olympics. As a matter of fact, if you look at every Olympic Games, we've won a medal since 1984. We've won at least 1 relay medal each of those times we won a medal in athletics at the Olympics. So it's very, very important, and it's on our mind. And that's why we are announcing the first qualification attempt in the mixed 4x4 relay. Very dear to our hearts because we believe that Nigeria can qualify and be a medal contender. One only has to look at the World Championships in 2019 when Bahrain won the bronze medal the first time that event was held. And it was 4 Nigerians who actually won the medal for Bahrain. So it's just, it's unfortunate that to date, Nigeria hasn't competed in that event. to qualify for the Olympics, but we hope that our event can start that off. We will also we'll also feature the other traditional relays, the men's and women's 4x100 meters and 4x400 meters. Although obviously a lot of our top athletes are abroad, so they may not be able to attend, but we will do our best to make sure that with the athletes who are available, we can actually have good qualification attempts in the different relays, or at the very least, a good practicing together for the athletes who will be joining up with their foreign counterparts later for the Olympics. Go on, does that cover your question?
Yeah, to some extent.
Okay. Is there any, let's go the whole way. What's the, is there anything I missed from what you asked?
No. That covers that area. My major worry back home is the athletes back home. When you say that majority of our athletes are abroad, those are the people that we are going to use when the time comes for the Olympics. Although you can also leave the fact that some of the home-based athletes will break into the team. So if they are well prepared, they should be able to break in. But the majority of the athletes will be featuring at the Olympics will be basically those abroad. I don't know whether you still have plans to organize more competition before the time.
Yes, so in terms of the athletes at home, I think they are very much in our plan. They should be very much in Nigeria's plans for the Olympics. So far, only 7 track and field athletes have automatically qualified already. One of them is based at home, sort of, Ushorite Shekiri. But there are many other athletes at home that will be at the Olympics. I'm proud to say that we have at least 3 athletes at Banking of Champions that are on course to qualify for the Olympics. And as Evans alluded to, there's a, the new World Athletics ranking system is something that we all have to keep an eye on. The athletes need to compete. We have athletes like Jerry Jakpa and Joy Udo Gabriel, who, according to their rankings today, will make the Olympics, although the ranking as of June of this year is what is most important. We also have athletes like Emmanuel Ojeli, a national 400-meter champion, who has fallen out of the rankings because he doesn't have enough competitions in the last 12 months, which is a bucket that a lot of our athletes at home find themselves in. So I wouldn't want us to count out the athletes at home. There are a lot of athletes at home that will qualify for the Olympics. And this is why we're putting up these competitions, so that as a nation, we don't just accept that, okay, it's the foreign base that will go. The people who are at home, they are lucky to come in if they make the Olympics. No, let's not have that mindset. Let's have the mindset that we have great athletes at home that we need to encourage. And if we do these competitions, they will qualify for the Olympics. And that's what we're hoping for. So we will be sharing some of these profiles of these athletes who are on course for the Olympics in our bulletin, and we will hopefully be bringing them along to participate in these media interactions going forward. Go on, I hope that...
I have a question. That answered the question, but is the AFN part of this arrangement?
Yes, certainly. The AFN is always our technical partner when it comes to the MoC Grand Prix. Obviously, those results would not be recognized globally without the AFN being involved. So yes, AFN is our partner in this.
Thank you very much.
No problem. I see Gift is raising his hand. Gift, if you could ask a question, please.
I have a question too.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Gift. Let me just go to Patrick first, and then I'll come back to you. Patrick, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bambo. Number one, I just want to know, you have mentioned the criteria for invitation. I want to know the total number of athletes that we are all expecting, to feature in this third MoC. Then, Mr. Bambo, I don't know where you are getting your confidence from. As far as I'm concerned, as at this point, Nigeria has lost it athletic-wise. Qualification or no qualification, I don't see us making any headway as far as the Olympic is concerned in terms of winning medals. Look at what the South Africans are doing, the Ivorians, even the Ghanaians. And here at home, at the back door is here, is politicking left, right, and center. Faction crisis, and even the Athletic Federation itself, I don't think they're even focused on seeing Nigerian do well at the Olympics. So I commend your charisma. But then that notwithstanding, do you think these efforts you want to measure within 5 or 6 months to the Olympics can actually give us the needed result that can make Nigeria to reach their head high at the Tokyo 2020?
Thank you, Patrick. Can you just repeat the first part of your question? You talked about the number of athletes. Can you just repeat?
Yeah, the total number of athletes expected at this third MoC.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. So we haven't decided the number of athletes yet. I think we're going to see how registration comes in. We're also going to see how we have our partners, our potential sponsors coming in. We've had a lot of very positive sponsorship discussions. As Tunde alluded to earlier, everybody's kind of waiting for someone to start. So hopefully once this has started, we're going to see some positive reactions from corporate Nigeria. So, these concerns is what is really going to determine what the final number of athletes is going to be and how open the event is going to be. In terms of Nigerian athletics losing it, I think our stance is very simple, that we cannot and we must not give up on Nigeria, the project that is Nigeria, or the project that is Nigerian sports or athletics. There's still a lot of hope. We actually believe that Nigeria can win up to 5 medals at this Olympics, and it's not too late to do that, and it's not too late to organize that. How can we do that? Very, very simple. We already have a couple of very strong individual medal contenders, people like Ese Brume and Tobi Amuson, who will be medal contenders in Tokyo, along with the likes of Divine Oduduru and Blessing Okagbare, who will also be hoping to get an individual medal. But even if we said only 2 of those may medal, where we can really get up to 5 is in the relays. We really need to look at the relays and see, okay, can we get a medal in the men's 4x1, the women's 4x1, maybe the women's 4x4, But the only way that can happen, as you said, Patrick, is organization, is mobilization. Even before the pandemic started, South Africa were already in their relay camps, and we haven't had one. So, we are doing our part to support the program of the Sports Ministry, the program of the Athletics Federation. And our hope and our desire is for Tokyo to be a turning point for Nigerian athletics. Despite the challenges posed by the pandemic, there is a new generation of athletes for Nigeria that is going to help the country turn the corner at the Olympics. But that new generation, they need all our help and support. We at Make No Champions, we're very excited that our athletes are part of that new generation. They will be appearing at the first Olympics this year. And it's going to be the start of a very, very long careers in athletics for Nigeria with those athletes. So thank you, Patrick, for your comments. There are times when all hope seems lost, but we are still here. And MoC, we've been in this sport in Nigeria for the last 7 years. Tokyo was always something that we saw as a potential turning point. So we're still pushing and driving hard towards that goal. Thank you, Patrick. Okay, I'm going to go to Gift and then Tunde Koiki. Gift, if you're ready to speak, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Bambi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Go on.
Okay, my name is Gift George from Nigerian Television Authority. This is my first time to have a one-on-one contact with MoC, Making of Champions. Of course, I knew about your, vision, objectives, and your programs from afar. For this, my first time of being in a closer communication with Making of Champions. So I'll be like, first of all, I would like to look at your long-term goals, vision, objectives, what you're looking in terms of achieving based on your programs. Now, first of all, I want to ask, is Making of Champions, of course, this is the third edition, if I'm correct, Making of Champions, is it totally different from the all-comers events the AFN used to do? What makes it different from the all-comers? Now, the all-comers, most of the time, we see a lot of young athletes. The National Sports Festival now is an open competition, right? So what impact is Making of Champions making in the long term for Nigerian athletics? If it's another open event, not like an age grade competition, maybe you're building future champions, you're training athletes, you're catching them young, you're discovering potentials in athletics that needs to be trained to further their careers. If it's an open competition like you're doing in this edition, maybe just due to COVID-19, of course, you normally used to make it open. So has it always been open, or do you ever have an age grade competition in MoC in terms of building or discovering or, you know, pioneering some new athletes like you've done before? So based on that, how do you coordinate these athletes, the younger ones? Because a lot of pundits, a lot of analysts in Nigeria always complain that what we do in Nigeria is competition, competition, competition. What's the difference between building an athlete for MoC and, you know, that's the second part of the question, building an athlete in MoC and also just having a competition? It's just about doing competition and looking at their times, they returned. Then the final part of the question would be the fact that you're doing this competition and you make reference to the Olympics. Is MoC competition, is it the basis for trials? Because I know AFN organizes open trials for its athletes. Do you get me?
Yes. Yeah.
AFN open trials for athletes in preparation for the Olympics. You know, they look at your times at All Africa Games, they look at your times at the National Sports Festival for you to be part of the national team for the athletics. So if you're doing this, and of course the AFN is partnering with you, is this the criteria for choosing athletes for Olympics? Is it part of the open, is it part of the trials events for the AFN? If you get my question. So it's more like three questions than one.
Yes, I'll go through them. So is it open or not? Or has it always been open? Yes, the event has always been open. The reason why we started the MoC Grand Prix in 2018 is because there were a reducing number of competitions for athletes in Nigeria. So it's essentially the same athletes that typically will attend the AFN All-Comers events. But if you recall, a few years back, the AFN actually had a Golden League, a series of about 5 or more events a year. And that Golden League hasn't really happened in the last couple of years. So, you know, right now the AFN is having their all-comers, their classics, you know, 2 or 3 events a year. But by this calendar, this year, about 3 events at the moment. So what we are doing is just finding a way to supplement what the AFN is doing. We're trying to provide support. We're trying to provide more opportunities for our athletes to compete. So yes, in normal times, this would be an open event. This time around, we want to have a closer eye on entries and the number of participants as we go along. In terms of
what are the chances for the younger ones based on you don't have age group competitions? That's another
part. Let me get to those second and third part of the question. So we've always had age grade competitions. They're different from the MoC Grand Prix. At the beginning, we had a reality show called Top Sprinter, which was a talent search. We've also had MoC athletics trials, which we use to select athletes to join MoC Track Club. So we fully agree that it's not just about competitions. We identify the young talent, we bring them in to train them. So at MoC Track Club, we actually have about 25 to 30 athletes that we're training. 20 of them are athletes who we've relocated to Lagos, and we put them in a girl's house, in a boy's house. We put them in school and university. So we're doing that work. And that is the work over the last 3 or 4 years that have produced the likes of Joy Udo Gabriel, who is now a national 100-meter champion, that have produced the likes of Jerry Jakpa. Both of them are at University of Lagos. As a matter of fact, we have about 8 athletes who are at Unilag. So we're very serious about not just doing competitions. We're very serious about doing that developmental work. And we happy to share more details about the work we do. Obviously, it's capital intensive, but for the goal that these athletes are heading towards, it's something that should be happening all over the country. So the final part of your question was the national trials. There will be a national trials this year. AFN has already released a date for that. And that's when they do the final selection for the competition for the year. So the international competition for the year, this year, it's obviously the Olympics. So by no means can any MoC event replace the trials where AFN does their final selection for the Olympics. However, at any AFN ratified event that's recognized by the World Athletics, anybody can qualify for the Olympics at our events by running an Olympic standard or by improving their world ranking with the time that they run at our event. So our event is definitely going to be an Olympic qualifying event. And that is part of the excitement of bringing it in at this point in time. And it's going to be very interesting, hopefully with corporate sponsors also jumping on board. Thank you very much, Gift. I'm going to go to Tunde Koiki and then Blessing. Tunde.
Okay, Bamo, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, it's good to see you again. I just want to ask, okay, so I've been a part, an integral part of this MoC project. I've been honored to be a part of it for the last 6 or 7 years. I've watched all the sacrifices, all the investments. I just want to ask you directly, just how much would this mean to you if one of the athletes that you discovered through the top sprinter process, the Making of Champions project, how much would this mean to you as an individual to see your investment bear fruit, to see one of these athletes actually make it to the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games? I'm not talking about winning the medal, just qualifying for the event, see them wear the national colors for Nigeria in Tokyo. How much would this mean to you?
It will mean everything. It's why we're still here. It's why we've kept these athletes going despite the pandemic, with everything shutting down. We just had to find a way to keep this dream alive, because Tokyo was always going to be a turning point for these athletes. Can you imagine that an athlete who was the fastest secondary school student in Lagos in 2015 is about to make their first Olympics today, right? Can you imagine that athletes who had never left their towns, or they'd never come to even Lagos before they competed at the top sprinter event in 2015 or 2016 are now on the cusp of going to the Olympics? Can you imagine an athlete that 3 or 4 years ago, when they found out that they were going to represent the country for the first time, told their coach, you mean I'm going to travel out, you know? Now, I won't reveal who that person is, but the point is, the point is when you see those lives changing, I mean, Tokyo would just be the icing on the cake for those athletes. And what fills my heart is that they're young. These are the athletes who are going to be name recognition athletes for Nigeria over the next 10 plus years. This is just the beginning for them. So we're very excited about that. Thank you, Tunde, for, for that question. Really appreciate it. And thank you for your involvement from the beginning of Making of Champions. Blessing, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. You talked about how you prioritizing inviting established athletes and preparing towards the Olympics. And with all of the uncertainty surrounding the Olympics so far this year, has that impacted on your planning? Has that impacted on the organization of things generally?
Yeah, it's a very good question. You know, with rumors swirling about whether the Olympics would hold, obviously Japan has come out to say that they are holding the Olympics, definitely. And I think we all must hold on to that. Everyone is waiting for something to happen. Like I mentioned, we've been in very positive conversations with some potential sponsors. They all want to do something this year, but everyone is kind of waiting to see, okay, is something going to happen? I think with the Olympics, it's only 6 months away, so there's no more time to wait and see. This is not the time to say, okay, at MoC, we've been training athletes for 4 to 5 years for the Olympics. We don't have the luxury of waiting to see if it's going to hold or not. As far as we know, it is going to hold. An event to the importance of the Olympics, I think they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that it happens. And I think we have to look towards the fact that, most professional sports around the world has returned. Football has returned. Destination events like the Australian Open. I'm sure the Olympics is looking at what they're doing, how to get people over there, how to quarantine them when they arrive. Obviously, the vaccines are coming in as well. So I think, I think Japan is well equipped to handle the Olympics in 6 months' time. And I think the trend of coronavirus generally around the world is beginning to drop at this time. So, I'm very positive, and I think we're going to forge ahead with the expectation that the Olympics will hold, and it will be a triumph of humanity over this pandemic. Thank you, Blessing. Okay, so I think we have time for probably 1 or 2 more questions. So I'm going to go to Paul and then Solomon. Paul, over to you.
Very much, Bambo. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Paul Akagbume. I work with AIT. And over time, I have actually been part of your competition, especially the last one at Yabat College of Technology. My question is, with the crop of athletes you've been training and organizing with over time, what has been the kind of discipline in terms of following the rules and ensuring that they are drug-free? And with the level of relationship between your organization and the coaches, have we ever had issues that led to problems in terms of discovering the right athletes, as well as giving them the opportunity to excel, despite the crisis in the midst of the officials and others? So how are you looking forward to getting them and then recording them well so that they will not defect to other countries by way of, not being taken care of accordingly? This in turn will affect the progress you are making.
So thank you, Paul. Let me take the second part of your question. Not being enticed by other countries. It's a problem that we must face as a nation. One of the reasons why it is one of the reasons why we started Making of Champions. I mentioned the Bahrain World Championship medal in mixed 4x4 in 2019. Those 4 athletes all left Nigeria between 2013 and 2015. As a matter of fact, one of them even appeared in our top sprinter competition in 2015, and before the end of the year, he was in Bahrain. So, what MoC has started is just a drop in the ocean. It's just the tip of the iceberg. We are looking after 20 athletes, but we need to be, as a nation, we need to be looking after hundreds of athletes in this way. We can't have a situation anymore as a nation where perhaps the only athletes that feel that they have a path to continue in the sport or a path to really project themselves in the sport are athletes at Making of Champions. As a nation, we can't accept that, and we mustn't accept that. We are supportive of athletes going to further their education and combining their education and sports abroad. A lot of athletes are going to the US, and that is fine. But we cannot depend on the US collegiate system to develop Team Nigeria. It just is not going to happen the way it happened in the 90s when we used to win medals. We need a group of 100 or more athletes at home in Nigeria that are fully looked after, fully sponsored, corporates behind them, training for the next Olympics in 2024. So we're hoping that what Making of Champions has done between 2016 and now will be a blueprint for corporates and for Nigeria to come together and say, you know what, we need to do this again, and we need to do this in a bigger, more substantive way. And then you will stop seeing athletes leaving to go to Bahrain or Qatar. One athlete famously told me that even if Mauritius calls him to run, he will go. So that is how bad some of the conditions are for some of the athletes in Nigeria. Hopefully we're doing our part to change that, and hopefully others will also join us in this work. In terms of being drug-free, our athletes, I'm very proud to say that we work with, coaches the caliber of Olympic medalists, Deji Aliyu and Gloria Lodze, who never had any drug infractions in their careers. We really established our program on mentorship, on mentoring the athletes to as to the dangers of doping. We're very, very serious about that. And our athletes are subjected to regular doping tests, particularly the top athletes who are already representing Nigeria. They're already go through the anti-doping regime in Nigeria. So thank you, Paul, for those questions. We're going to have a final question from Solomon, and then we will wrap up with the final part of the parley. Solomon.
Thank you very much, Bambo. I'm excited to be part of this. I'm happy that this is happening. I'm happy that earlier in the year I was just thinking, okay, so which are the events that the athletes are going to be taking part in? Okay, the National Sports Festival. After that, what's next? Well, I'm happy there's an all-comer, whoever is organizing it, whatever it is. I'm happy there's the MoC Grand Prix returning. I'm happy about that. But I have two questions to ask you. The first one is, you've mentioned about this, you talked about the support of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, and I wonder, with the division in the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, do we just say the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, which side of them is in support of you, because you understand which one does the World Athletics recognize, and for ratification purposes of your results? Then secondly, when you set out in 2015 with top sprinters, and then of course, I'm happy I was there too. So, and then MoC in 2016, was Tokyo 2020 the benchmark, the timeline you had set to be able to produce an athlete to qualify to represent Nigeria at all, even if it's to win a medal? Looking back then from 2015, 2016 to 2020, was that the timeline you set? And would that be playing a huge role in your, well, let me permit me to use the word desperation, or the urgency of trying to get your athletes to qualify?
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. And you're right, you were there right at the beginning when we had our first top sprinter audition at Unilag. You walked over and you're like, oh, these guys look different from the normal people I see around. So I remember that very well. So in terms of the AFN, as you rightly pointed out, there have been some challenges in terms of the division. We are very non-partisan, so we support the AFN so long as the AFN is, helping the athletes, putting up competitions, we'll support them. One of my coaches actually said that, look, if both sides are doing competitions, we go for both competitions. It's for the betterment of the athletes. So I think there's going to be an election this year. I think we're all waiting for that election so that some normalcy can return to the federation. Until then, we will continue to provide our support. The Olympics is not waiting for us to sort ourselves out. So we will continue providing support. And we believe, we've had our events ratified in the past. And we believe that that's still going to be the case on this occasion, regardless of what's happening in the AFN. So the other comment you had was about Tokyo being the benchmark. Yes, After we did Top Sprinter in 2015, we started the MoC Track Club in 2016, and the goal was obviously Tokyo. It's been a long 4 years, now going to 5 years because of the Olympic postponement. But yes, I'm very proud to say that we do have, you know, at least 3 athletes who will be at the Olympics, God willing. We do have an athlete who is a Paralympic medal potential, a big medal potential, and his name is Ifeanyi Christian. We'll be sharing more about him in due course. And yes, you know, it is great to see what those kids are doing. You know, the likes of Jerry Jackman and Joydo Gabriel, they were both in Europe in 2019. They should have been last year if not for the pandemic. They will be again this year to make sure that they get the qualifying times or the ranking to go to the Olympics. So at least our top athletes, regardless of what's happening in Nigeria, we have made a way for them to progress on the world stage. But we mustn't forget the athletes at home. Athletes at home will be at the Olympics. There's been some good times even last year in 1 or 2 competitions held. And let's see what happens in the next 6 months. But you're certainly right, Solomon. We do have an urgency. As long as the Olympics is happening, it's not going to wait for us to sort out our problems. So let's come together and see what we can do in the next 6 months. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We're just going to spend the last 5 to 10 minutes or so looking forward to the first AFN event in Akure on Saturday. I'm going to hand over to Chris Maduesi. He's one of our senior sports writers, to give you a bit of a preview of the event. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Bambo. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This weekend, the athletics season is going to commence in Akure at the Federal University of Technology. Just like in 2020, when the season started in Akure, is also going to start in Akure in 2021. So there are a lot of competitions to look forward to. There are 15 events. But I'm particularly keen for the women's 100 meters because it gives us an opportunity to see Grace Mukocha and our own athlete, Joydo Gabriel, 2 athletes who have established a rivalry. Last season, Grace finished the season's best of 11:45 seconds. She actually ran 11:38 seconds in Akure, but for the wind reading, which was plus 7.6, it would have been a personal best for her. So she's going up against Joy again on Saturday. Joy finished last season with 11:49 seconds. But aside the women's 100 meters, there is also an interesting race to look forward to, the men's 100 meters, which Enoch Adegoke, who ran 10:29 seconds, will be going up against Ogo Ogene. I know many people are expecting Ogo to retire, but last season, Ogo was the fastest Nigerian in the 100 meters, 10:23 seconds. He ran 10:23 seconds twice, and that was in Benin. So he's going up against Enoch in the 100 meters. But there's also Jerry, because Jerry defeated Enoch and Ogo in the same competition. Many people expect Jerry to do well in the 200 meters well. He finished last season at the second fastest Nigerian in 20:71 seconds. But he's also very good in the 100 meters. So when he goes up against Enoch and Ogo, it's not going to be like a straight contest between Enoch and Ogo. One thing to note about Akure is that it is a very good hunting ground for Nigerian athletes. In 2016, 2 athletes qualified for the Olympics competing in Akure. Esi Brumi jumped the personal best of 6:83 meters in Akure, while Patience Okon-George ran 51:06 seconds to qualify for the Olympics in the women's 400 meters. So if she runs anything below 51:35 seconds, she's going to qualify for the Olympics. I'm still talking about how good Akure is. Our athlete, Emmanuel Ojeli, ran 20:94 seconds. I don't know if he's going to start with the 200 meters this season, he's a quarter miler. But I mean, if he's going to produce what he did last year, 2094 seconds in Akure, he should be very close to maybe a 27 or 28 at the moment. And yes, the men's 400 meters, I'm not sure Emmanuel is going to run the 400 meters in Akure, but if he runs, we're expecting some fast times from him. He was defeated last year. That was the first race he lost in 2 years. He lost to Daniel Atinaya, who ran the personal best of 46.09 seconds. So there are a lot of exciting competitions. There is the men's high jump. There's one schoolboy named David Aya, who jumped the personal best of 210 meters in the high jump. Best Hero is no longer in Nigeria, but David Aya is one person you should watch out for in the boys. In the men's high jump, I said boys because he's still in secondary school, and if he's jumping 210 meters now, that means he's one prospect to keep an eye on. For MoC, we have a record number of athletes who are going to be competing in Akure, and I'll leave my colleague Yemi Olus to talk about the number of athletes we are taking to Akure and who to watch out for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. First of all, I apologize for not having my video on due to circumstances beyond my control, but I'll just get to it. So we're excited at Making of Champions that things are gradually picking up in track and field after the disruption caused by the pandemic last year. So at least competitions are gradually coming forward too. And in MoC, we're sending 22 athletes to Akure. The Akure All-Comers is something we're really looking forward to because for most of our athletes, this is going to be their first national competition in almost a year. The last national outing was the Ekiti Classics in February last year. So having the Akure All-Comers coming at this time is something very good for them. So the athletes are in high spirits and really looking forward to putting on impressive performances in Akure. So like I said earlier, we're sending a team of 22 athletes. That is the highest number of athletes MoC has ever sent to a single competition. But of course, considering the circumstances and all that happened this year, it only makes sense that we maximize the opportunities for these athletes to compete. So whatever competitions are available, as much as possible, we'll try to get them competing. Things were a little favorable for our top athletes last year, thinking about Joy, Udogi Bell, Jerry Jakban, Emmanuel Ojeli. At least they were able to have one international competition last year. They competed at the Kano Classics in Kenya, where Joy and Jerry ran in the 200 meters and finished fourth in their respective races, while Ojeli competed in the 400 meters and second. So of course, these three athletes are among the top MoC athletes to watch out for in Akure, but they are not the only ones we have there. We have the likes of Blessing Oladoye, who won 2 medals for Nigeria in 2019, both at senior level in the women's 4x400. Blessing Oladoye is MoC's #1 female quarter miler, so she is one athlete to watch out for at the Akure All-Comers. We also have Favor Ikope, who is a 2019 under-20 men's national champion. Favor Ikope will be opening his season in Akure, as well as the second favor we have. We have two favors in MoC. So the second favor is Favor Asher. Favor Asher is 18 now, but last year, while he was still 17, at the Akure All-Comers, Favor ran a world under-20 lead in the men's 100 meters. A time of 10.40 seconds, which was the fastest time in the world in under-20 category at that time. So of course, we're looking forward to seeing what Favor will start his season with this time around at the same track in Akure. We also have Miracle Thompson, who is Nigeria's #1 under-20 100 meters hurdler. Miracle is being trained by our Olympic medalist coach, Glory Alozie. So of course, expect fast times from her as well. And then of course, there'll be other athletes to watch out for who might just bring surprises in Akure. So keep your eyes, your ears glued to our social media platforms. Of course, the team will be live in Akure to bring everything happening, so watch out for all the action in Akure from our social media platforms. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yemi. We're going to start wrapping up the meeting now. We've just gone over an hour or so. We're going to try and keep these meetings to within an hour, so time is fast spent. So in terms of moving forward, following the meeting, we're going to send our first bulletin. We're calling it Nigerian Athletics Weekly because we intend to send these bulletins every week with press releases, with news, and with content that you can make use of for your publications and your productions. We appreciate that there's a lot of information that we've already shared at this meeting. The bulletin you'll see shortly will include our press release for the third MoC Grand Prix, but it will also include the stories we've published in the last week concerning the athletes at home and abroad, concerning competitions coming up. So please feel free to make use of them. Feel free to use them in your stories. I mean, our own mantra is that there's enough news in Nigerian athletics to talk about athletics every day if you wanted to. So that is something that we hope to show with this new process we're starting from now until the Olympics. We hope to have the next media parley hopefully in a couple of weeks with a bit more focus on the athletes. Hopefully we'll be able to announce one or two new sponsors by that time. And we also keep our eye on the National Sports Festival and any other developments with the MoC Grand Prix. I think following this meeting as well, we can send the audio of this meeting very quickly. The video, we'll take a look at it and see whether we publish it or not. But I think that's where we want to move towards so that this can be publicly available. Thank you very much, everyone. I don't know if there's any final burning question. We can take it very quickly. Otherwise, we can adjourn. Solomon, you have another question?
Well, not necessarily a question. The video thing is of utmost because the sound bite, the audio bite wouldn't be enough. The video for your reactions, basically your answers. Okay. I would need them, so I have to have the video as soon as possible for me to put together. So,
okay, thank you so much. So we will we'll work on making that available, and we'll leave it to you to decide what parts of the video that are quality for you to actually project on TV. And I think following these meetings, if you have any ideas as to who you want to bring into the studio or have us appear on the news, we can also do that. Obviously, with a physical press conference, it would have been easier for you to get exactly the shots that you want. But certainly we can work on making this available as soon as possible. And it's just a reminder for all of us that let's try to have a video that we can put out there and we'd be happy to see on TV and on YouTube and everywhere. So thank you very much for that, Solomon. Charles, you have one final comment as well?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, in this period where everyone's trying to keep safe and doing what they can to ensure a measure of safety, what are you doing in terms of keeping your athletes safe as well? And constant, inundation on how to go about making sure that they do not contract COVID-19 ahead of, all of these meets that we're talking about.
Thank you very much, Charles. Yes, it's very important. We have guidelines that we shared with them that, to really be very critical about how they move around. They are essentially operating in a bubble at the moment. And we know about their movements, whatever they're doing. So for example, with going to Akure now, we also have guidelines for them as to how they have to comport themselves when they go there. I think one of the biggest messages for them is that, especially if you are looking to represent the country this year, the risk of contracting COVID is not really worth taking if you can avoid it at, at all. I will look at examples like what's his name, Andy Murray, who couldn't go to Australia for the Australian Open because he caught COVID. We don't want that kind of situation for any athlete to get to the Olympics and not to be able to enter the promised land because of a reason like that. So thank you for that question, Charles. We're definitely taking all steps we can to ensure that the athletes are sensitized and being very careful about social distancing. Even in training, they're very careful about it. Thank you, Charles. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We will adjourn at this point, and we will send a follow-up bulletin in the next few minutes, which really summarizes what we've discussed today and provides additional information. Our next bulletin, you probably should expect it as early as Monday, where we will send some reviews, videos, photos from the AFN All Comers meet in Akure on Saturday. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good afternoon, and we will see you all again very soon. Thank you.